good evening. I'm Melissa Idris.
And I'm Sharad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. An ongoing tussle between the Perak State Development Corporation and farmers in Hulu Kinta has grabbed national headlines. The dispute revolves around rights to farmland that have been cultivated for generations. Eviction notices have been issued to farmers as the agency plans to develop the area for residential and industrial purposes. Now, what does this dispute reveal to us about the Perak State Government's view of the value of agriculture, food security, and economic development? Our first guest tonight is Dr. Michael Jayakumar Devaraj. He is chairperson of Parti Sosialis Malaysia, PSM, also former member of parliament for the Sungai Siput constituency in Perak. Dr. Jayakumar, we understand that you are going to be going to the MACC tomorrow to lodge a report over possible abuse of power in this farmland dispute. Could you explain to us what exactly are your contentions and what are you going to be saying to the MACC?
Okay, Melissa. We're helping about 10 different farming communities which are facing eviction right now. And a pattern that emerges is we find that their land has been sold to private developers, but the price of the sale is like 1/3 or 1/4 the actual value of the land, if you look at the market value of the land. So that raises questions. Why would the PKNP, the Perbadanan Kemajuan Negeri Perak, if they want to monetize the land, as opposed to get the money to do something else, to build houses for the poor or whatever, why are they selling it so cheap? So like one of the areas that we came across is that they're selling the land for 4.8 million, when our estimate, looking at the cost of land in that area, is about 15, 16 million, it's about 3 times more. So basically we don't know, we don't have any proof that, there's any corruption, but it does look very suspicious. So there are a couple of areas where this has happened. So we're going to just go and give it to MACC and say, look into it.
Okay, Dr. Kumar, but beyond the question of land values, there are very interesting issues which you have also raised in the media regarding this case, which has to do with the very idea of economic development, the importance of agriculture. Some of the lands in dispute now produce 60 tons of vegetables daily, involving over 3,000 acres of farmland and 300 farmers. So there is a substantial ecosystem, a social and political, economic and business ecosystem that's going to be disrupted by these plans to have more housing or to develop high-tech industrial parks. What can you tell us about the heart of the problem?
No, I think the state government is being extremely short-sighted, in going for this. Because if you look at Malaysia, Sharad, we have about 8 million hectares of farmland. That's about 24% of our surface area of Malaysia. And of this 8 billion hectares, about 5.5 million is oil palm, and another 1-point-something million is rubber. It's only leaving about 1.5 million hectares for food, and of that, half of it goes to paddy. So it's not very much land really for, what these guys are doing, the vegetable farming and the fish rearing and all that. And I think if you destroy that, the other thing is, Shah, these people have been there for 2-3 generations, and they've actually have got a lot of expertise and knowledge on how to handle this land. They're producing so much without any government inputs. There's no subsidies, no help. They're just doing it. If you go and destroy this community, you're going to also lose that expertise. If all these people, you can compensate them and say, okay, I'll pay you so much, go off. But the loss is to the nation, to the society, because we're going to lose our capacity for, producing food locally, So I think it's more than just some poor farmers getting evicted. It's also a whole question of long-term food security for the country. But despite all our appeals to the authorities, to try and meet the Menteri Besar, we never get a chance.
Right. Dr. Jayakumar, can I ask you about the state government's approach? I mean, you said that you're helping more than 10 farming communities with this. Are you saying that the state government clearly prioritizes industrial development, residential development over agriculture, land use for agriculture?
It seems to be, they're just going ahead and, giving away all this land. I mean, these farmers don't have grants, that is true, but not because they haven't tried. Many of them have applied and they've been turned down, and now this is just, at this point in time, we're getting 10 areas, in different parts of Perak and different numbers of farmers in each, and at times we can send letters, memorandums and all that. They very politely take it, but you don't have any discussion after that. So that's the main problem we're having,
Okay, the other issue that you've raised, Dr. Jayakumar, is the question of the Menteri Besar's office and the prerogatives that he has to make this decision without any apparent scrutiny. What do you understand by this particular problem of governance and perhaps replicated across the Federation?
Yeah, Sharad, the problem is, when we got independence, we didn't change the land law. We just codified it to a national land code. But it has the same provision. When the British came and ran this country, the resident had total power over land. So you could give thousands of acres to British firms, for mining, for agriculture, for plantations. That same power now that the resident had, which just overrides everything else, is now transferred to the Menteri Besar. It's just... and there are no checks and balances. In fact, one of the things that we suggested, the farmers have suggested, is that should be a committee set up at state level that has veto power, that actually can look and see if land is destroying, if giving the land is going to destroy agricultural production, is going to displace rural communities, that this committee can question it, can stop the alienation. But those kinds of ideas are not being discussed, is it? But I think we've got to change the law, because now there is too much power in one person, The Menteri Besar is also the chairman of the PKNP. The Menteri Besar also selects the PG, the Pengarah Tanah and Galian. And of course it's legal. All these things, they give the land to a company from KL, which has got nothing to do with the land there. But it's completely legal, is it?
All right. Dr. Jayakumar, you are going to be raising some concerns, hoping the MACC looks into some of these land deals. Can I ask you, who do you believe benefits from the land takeover?
I didn't get you there. Who benefits, is it?
Who benefits, from the farmers being evicted from the land takeover?
Don't really know. I mean, obviously the developer gets something, and if there are kickbacks, which you don't have proof of, but if there are kickbacks, and obviously the people approving the transfer of the land, the alienation of the land, are getting something as well. So, yeah.
Well, Dr. Jayakumar, if I could just jump in very quickly, in some of the material that was put out by advocates on behalf of the farmers, saying that in the past, farming communities have been evicted, they've been given compensation, cleared off the land for industrial development, and nothing actually happened, and the land, as it were, returned to jungle. So, can you tell us about these? Because we know that in Malaysia, there's a lot of great ideas, bright ideas that don't necessarily go anywhere. Is there a distinct possibility?
Yeah, it does happen. I mean, the place, Kantan, where Mr. Tan, your next person guest on the show, comes. I mean, they've evicted people over, I think, 300-400 acres in the past, and about half of that land is still not being used for industrial purposes, which is supposed to be. Right? So there is a lag, So, yeah, that happens. Now, what we are saying is, since there's so much plantation land, take over some of the oil palm estates and put your industry there, but don't go and compromise food-producing areas. That's mainly what we are trying to say.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Dr. Jayakumar. Appreciate your time. Dr. Michael Jayakumar Devraj from PSM there. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this, but we will be back with more on this topic. Stay tuned.
Insan yang berjaya juga insan seperti kita. Didorong keazaman demi mencapai cita-cita mereka. Super. Melengkapkan juadah anda.
Kita sering menyangka rumah kita tentunya bersih, namun debu-debu yang tersembunyi tetap ada. Dyson V12 Detect Slim dengan teknologi laser pengesan debu memerangkap zarah yang tidak boleh dilihat dengan mata kasar. Kuasa sedotan menyesuaikan diri secara automatik dan penapisan keseluruhan mesin memerangkap habuk halus, membersihkan tempat yang suka dicapai dan memberikan anda bukti saintifik. Beraya di rumah yang lebih bersih bersama Dyson. Nikmati pelan ansuran faedah 0% dari Dyson.
Haus. Minumlah. Tak nak aku minum. Aku musafir ni.
Hai. Manusia tak nampak. Tapi Tuhan yang nampak deh. Pandai sangat.
The pandemic has underscored a need for a proper collection and disposal system dedicated for hazardous waste.
The much-awaited border reopening, also scheduled on the same date of April 1st.
Now the pandemic has underscored the need for businesses to not only digitize workflows, but move them to cloud.
Gubal Akta Baru berkaitan larangan ahli Dewan Rakyat untuk bertukar parti.
Sarawak telah dipilih destinasi lawatan pelancong 2022.
Tiada lagi penggiliran di sekolah dan pastinya ini adalah perkabaran gembira.
4.7 juta kenderaan akan berada di jalan raya sempena dengan Aidilfitri.
Hi, you're watching Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris. With me is Sharad Kutan. If you've just joined us on the show tonight, we're discussing the ongoing tussle between the Perak State Development Corporation and farmers in Hulu Kinta Perak. Eviction notices have been issued to the farmers as the agency plans to develop the area for residential and industrial purposes. Let's speak now to Mr. Tan Tian Chi. He's the chief of the Cemor Modern Farmers Association. Mr. Tan, can you tell us why you're fighting the eviction notices?
First of all, I'm the chairman of the association. Dan itulah tugas saya. Saya kena mempertahankan kepentingan ahli-ahli semua. Tanah itu memang sesuai sekali untuk pertanian. Untuk pertanian, paling penting adalah sumber air. Tapak itu ada air yang cukupi untuk dia silam air. Lagipun itu tanah itu dibuat oleh dimulakan oleh nenek moyang kami. Jadi tanah tadi tak sesuai, bikin sampai sesuai, bukan 1-2 hari boleh jadi. Jadi angkat masa yang panjang. Itulah saja.
Ya, so Mr. Tan, saya faham kalau kemahiran dan kesesuaian dan ubah suai kepada tanah itu hilang, agak sukar untuk dapat tempat yang baik ya. So, bolehkah Encik Tan beritahu kita tentang apa yang dikeluarkan oleh tanah itu? Saya tahu 60 tan sayuran keluar. Apa yang akan hilang kalau tanah ini diambil untuk menjadi tapak perumahan dan perindustrian?
Kalau itu tanah diangkat, satu, kita akan hilang kerja lah. Sebab kebanyakan petani di situ adalah umur average adalah lebih kurang 50-an. Jadi sudah tua. Mana lagi mau pergi? Mana boleh lagi senang dapat kerja lagi? Lagi, kalau itu tanah diangkat, jadi itu supply chain akan putus.
banyak orang akan hilang kerja. Region ekonomi akan merosotlah.
Okey. Mr. Tan, adakah kerajaan negeri membantu dalam usaha bercucuk tanam, usaha menyediakan hasil tanaman? Adakah pihak kerajaan negeri membantu, memberi sokongan?
Tidak. Sekarang yang mau ambil tanah kami itu adalah satu commanding company lah, itu PKNP, Perbadanan Kemajuan Negeri Perak. Kerajaan yang mau ambil kita punya tanah, mana dia mau tolong lagi? Macam mana pun dia replacement lah, tapi itu tidak sesuai.
Encik Tan, berapa ramai petani yang terjejas? Berapa ramai petani yang diusir dari ladang?
Setakat ini lebih kurang 130 petani yang terlibat lah.
Ya, Encik Tan, lagi satu soalan ya. Dari segi masa depan pertanian di negeri Perak, apakah anda dah cakap kebanyakan petani itu orang yang mungkin sebaya dengan saya, umur sama dengan saya, 50-an ke atas. Apakah masa depan untuk pertanian, untuk apa yang dikatakan dalam bahasa Inggeris food security di Perak?
State government willing to offer tapak yang cantik, yang sesuai. Sangat orang muda mungkin ada minat masuk bidang ini lah. Kalau macam kita masuk tanah itu terbiar, kita usaha itu tanah sesuai untuk suku pertanian, umpamanya itu tanam sayur. Kerajaan tak mau buat macam tu. Saya ingat negeri Perak bersayur akan food security itu apa ni? Lagi itu supply chain akan putus. Akan banyak kurang itu sayur. Masih buat masa sekarang, kami lah yang merupakan satu menghasilkan sayur terbanyak di Perak, dan juga jagung yang tempat yang mengeluarkan jagung yang terbesar sekali di Malaysia. Okay.
Mr. Tan, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We appreciate your time. Mr. Tan Tian Chi from the Cemor Modern Farmers Association there. We're going to take another quick break here and consider this, but don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Hai, saya Mak Dan. Seperti hari-hari biasa, jadual harian saya sangat padat. Jadi saya perlu sentiasa fokus dan aktif dalam kehidupan seharian. Pilihan barangan yang digunakan juga memain peranan yang penting. Setiap pilihan yang dibuat perlulah berkualiti, mudah, selesa dan berpatutan. Barulah nak kerja ataupun lakukan aktiviti senang. Semua ni ada di sini dan tak perlu cara yang lain. Buat apa luar negara kalau ada lokal? Belilah barangan Malaysia. Barang baik, barang kita.
Insan yang berjaya juga insan seperti kita. Didorong keazaman demi mencapai cita-cita mereka. Super. Melengkapkan juadah anda.
Kita nak jumpa balik Gigi tu bang. Kita ajak dari mes.
Kalau kau kalah, kau kena istirahat. Berhenti dari dunia gusti.
Tebus kami mari.
Aku tak gentar dengan cabaran. Gila Gusti. Sewa dan stream on demand atau sila ke saluran 480.
Apa juada istimewa ini?
Ada orang kata nasi goreng ini sedap sebab ada orang cakap pasal lauk, ada terletak pada rempah.
Aku angin betul dengan anak-anak aku ni. Tiga-tiga anak dara perempuan tapi seorang pun tak boleh pakai tu dah.
Lembabnya. Kalau potong macam ni bila nak boleh masak ni?
Kisha nak buka bisnes.
Siapa yang akan bantu Kak Aspa Lela nanti?
Hari ni Lala tak boleh tolong lah.
Saya boleh tolong, Mak.
Kat dapur nanti jangan nak melatah pula.
Melatah? Kau kenapa?
Cucu kau putih geli aku. Astagfirullahalazim. Pening pada aku.
Beriani Gam Kak Aspa Lela di Astro dan Astro Go.
Hi, thanks so much for staying with Sharad and I on Consider This. Let's speak now to A. Sivanesan, Assembly Person for Sungai in Perak. He was the Perak State Exco Member for Health, Environment and Human Resources in 2008 to 2009, and for 2 years in 2018 held the portfolio of Health, Consumer Affairs, Civil Community, National Integration and Human Resources. Sivanesan, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I want to begin by asking you if this entire dispute of eviction to farmers, of the land deals being sold to private developers, what does the dispute reveal to you or signal to you? Or do you have any concerns regarding these disputes? Mr. Sivanesan, are you there?
Yes. Can I? Okay.
Yes, proceed.
I am the State Assemblyman for Sungai from the year 2008 until today. And I was as correctly pointed out, I'm also a lawyer, practicing lawyer. And this issue of farmers, I do agree with Dr. Jaikumar and then also the chairman of the Farmers Association that food security is the most important issue here, because I was in charge of consumer too when I was the EXCO member. But the problem here is not what we see today. The problem here was already in existence for very long, but no one knew about the problem. I have raised this issue in the Perak State Assembly a couple of times. Every time the Sultan comes and does the opening ceremony, in his speech, he will definitely touch on agriculture, the need for food security, and etc. So as far as the Sultan is concerned, he is very concerned about agriculture and food security. But whether this is adopted by the government of the day or not is a different issue to be debated. And in this situation, even in my constituency, I've got the same problem. But all this problem arose prior to 2018. In fact, this land which the farmers are cultivating upon, they knew that very well they don't have a license to cultivate on the land. And, hello?
Yes.
Yes, so Mr. Sivanesan, I understand that they do not have land grants or titles to the land, but nevertheless, this is a booming community, and we understand that they have in the past attempted to get those rights. But tell us a little bit about, since you were in government, in terms of policy making, is there any thinking among politicians on either side of the aisle or in the state bureaucracy that appreciates the issues of food security and are actually doing something, creating programs or a time frame in order to produce something that would count for a serious management of food in the state?
You see, the last time they ever renewed this license for these farmers were in 1989. Thereafter, there was never any renewal. And the farmers too did not approach the land office for the renewal. And during that point of time, the land was alienated to either the government-linked companies or to a third party. In fact, there are land which has been alienated to the Majlis Agama Islam. There are land which has been alienated to the Koperasi Polis Raja Malaysia in my constituency. And the farmers doesn't know. But once you drive in, you see the signboard there. But the farmers continue planting there. They continue cultivating. And the farmers who are here are not the original farmers who started planting during the insurgency period in 1945. Now is the third generation and the fourth generation, one. Number two, we are talking about food security. What kind of produce are we talking about food security? What I want to see in the market is products like long beans, brinjals, chili. It has gone beyond reasonable prices. But quite a big number of these farmers have planted oil palm too. But what I'm trying to say is the state has to look into the restructuring of these farmers. And while I was watching, I was told that these farmers are paid compensation. It's not compensation. They cannot be paid compensation under the law. What they get is ex gratia payment. But the issue is, how are we going to put both these people and settle the matter? When the government alienates the land to a third party, the decision they will take at the EXCO meeting is that it is the duty of the third party to whom the land has been alienated should find a solution with the alleged illegal farmers on that land. So now they have thrown the burden to the farmers and to the third party who has got the land. The third party will give them, will offer them an ex gratia payment, which the farmers will reject. Once they reject, the third party will go to the court.
Yeah, so Mr. Sivan, I mean, this can turn into a long drawn-out legal battle, but in the meantime, the more important issues of food security get left behind. Do you see any interest in the state assembly among your fellow assemblymen on both sides of the aisle, an interest in Perak's food security? Do they even understand the concept?
Precisely and absolutely. Precisely and absolutely. We are for it. But again, this should come from the state. I can vouch here that during the 22 months, Pakatan Harapan, there was no land alienated. But this was all done prior to that. In the case of Chumor, in fact, in the year 2010, the land was alienated to the MIC, education arm, the AIMS University. And they were sitting on it all this while. Now they have moved in. The land was not, it is not alienated yesterday or before yesterday. It was alienated about some 15 years ago. And now they have moved in. It has gone into legal battle. So how is the government going to get involved? The government is just going to watch that. This is what is happening all this while. But the question is, how are we going to put a full stop to all this? That is the question. Right. And there is no data with the government to show how many such farmers are cultivating on the government land, even until today. The farmers don't come and give us any data. The farmers don't come and approach us until the day the problem starts. Dr. Jay Kumar will agree with me. He doesn't know about this problem last year.
Okay. Mr. Sivan, unfortunately, we've run out of time, and we appreciate you joining us on the show tonight. Thank you for your time. That was A. Sivan, the assembly person for Sungai in Perak, and that wraps up this episode of Consider This. That's all we have for you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Melissa Idris.
And I'm Sharad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
Have a lovely evening and good night.
Good night.